What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for watching. Welcome to another video. And today we are talking about when the church confronted me about my lack of belief. So some of this story just involves church members in general, some of which I spoke to openly, some I did not, and the other is a bit more personal, involves family. So basically, when I first started having doubts about the faith and about Christianity and about whether or not the Bible made sense, whether or not God's really there, all that kind of stuff, I wasn't advertising it, and I do feel that I went through this period where I was really just trying to pray and kind of thought that, you know, if God saw that I was reaching out and I was sincerely praying and all of this stuff, I would kind of get past this period in my life, and my faith would again be something that was not only very important to me, but also the center of my life again. And here I am making atheist content, so you can guess how that went. But I can't hide things to save my life. So it really became very clear to everyone around me that when I was in church, I was just miserable. I felt like I was being fed a bunch of lies. I felt like I was being told a bunch of stuff that wasn't true. I felt like I was being fed false hope. And I could also see at that point that a lot of the messages I was being taught in church were just absolutely awful. You know, one moment that stands out in my mind that it wasn't really something I thought about until much later. I was still in elementary school. I was probably like between 8 and 10 years old, somewhere around there. And the church had kind of broken up, and my parents were talking to other people, and you know, some adults had come up to me and were talking to me the way you talk to kids, you know, oh, what do you want to be when you grow up? And at the time, I adored my pastor. And I said I wanted to be a pastor. And they told me I couldn't because I was a girl. And I was crushed. I was very crushed. I don't think my parents even shared that belief, so they probably would not have been happy that was said to me. But I think about it all this time later, and it's like, okay, wait a second. You people believe that anyone who doesn't believe in God, that doesn't have a relationship with Jesus, is going to spend eternity suffering. And you would rather see that happen to people than have them be taught by a woman. What kind of fucking person are you? Seriously. All jokes is, what kind of person do you have to fucking be to be comfortable with that? Really? Damn. That's just so ridiculous. I mean, there's plenty of things I could go on and on about with the bad messages that you get in church, whether they're technically Bible-based or not, by the way. But anyways, you know, those kinds of things were things I was noticing that were starting to bother me. I was noticing that I felt God in my life, and I got to a point and I didn't, and it was kind of like, okay, am I going through one of those periods of silence that other Christians have taught me about, or was it all my imagination? And that's just the ultimate mindfuck. You don't know. At this point, I feel quite confident that there is no God. But at the time, I was like, okay, I don't know if I buy the Bible anymore, and there's a lot of bad messages I'm being taught, but what about the God part? Like, is he there? Did I imagine the whole thing? Were my prayers ever answered? Were none of them answered? What's going on now? It's kind of easy now to talk about this in a really lighthearted way, but you gotta realize at the time, like, this was just eating me up inside. This was eating me alive. I was crying over it every day. I was just so broken and lost, and I felt like, you know, I felt like I believed in God, and I felt like I believed that God loved me, and all of a sudden, you know, something happened, and God turned his back on me. I don't care how good someone feels about leaving a religion after the fact, it can be so painful to go through at the time. So there were basically two different reactions that I got when people knew that things were going on, knew something was up, and started having these conversations with me. So first, it was just kind of people in the church. Some of these were conversations I started, some of these were conversations people kind of pushed on me because, you know, we are talking about evangelicals here. So what really led me down this path was the fact that I got very, very sick. And at the time I felt like there was no hope. I've never really been cured. There are still health issues I struggle with. But if it was still as bad as it used to be, I probably would not want to live. Like, that's all I'm going to share for right now. But, I mean, it was a very, it was rough. I was in pain all the time. And there were a lot of basic things that were just difficult for me to do that should not have been difficult for me to do. And it kind of forced me to face the question of why would a good God and or a God who loves us allow us to go through these kinds of things? Why would he, and even aside from that, why would he abandon us? So for me, that's what I was going through. I think before that point, I just kind of accepted the whole, oh, there's things that God knows that us just people will just never understand because it's things only God can really get. It's just this whole stupid argument. Now, I'm not saying that there can't be any beings out there that are smarter than me. Of course, that's possible. But the idea that you're just supposed to accept any level of brutality and be fine with it when someone could protect you from those things, fuck you. I don't think so. So, while people were confronting me about the fact that I obviously was going through this little journey away from faith, like, so many of them just made it so much worse. So, for example, I don't know how many of you grew up in church, but there was this image of footprints in the sand, and it would have this, I swear it was in every single church when I was growing up, every single one. And the word said something about, when I see one set of footprints in the stand, it's not because God left me, it's because God was carrying me. And y'all, things that are that stupid really don't help people who are facing actual struggle and actual hardship and actual pain. Just so you fucking know. If you have that in your church, please fucking remove it. It's stupid. I could not understand why people told me things like that, as if it was supposed to be comforting. Okay, so let's back up here. You're telling me that I'm going through the darkest time in my life, and God doesn't seem to care, and is no longer here, and I'm supposed to simply be okay with that and stay loyal to someone who has abandoned me. You don't see how that doesn't really make sense? You see how that's kind of dumb? It just really made me realize that people seriously expected me to be loyal to the point of being willing to sacrifice my life for this stupid belief system. All in the name of a God that can abandon me at any point in time. And I'm supposed to be okay with that? I don't think so. Y'all fuckers gotta be kidding me. But the best part was the toxic positivity. Now, I heard the phrase toxic positivity for the first time like a year and a half ago, and I rolled my eyes so hard. I'm like, everything's gotta be toxic these days, I swear. Like, what is this? But once I actually heard someone explain it, like, it's true. There is such a thing as toxic positivity. Okay? Because aside from talking about, you know, how I feel about God, my relationship with God, whether or not he's still there, all that kind of stuff, you know, the thing that really set me down this path of having these harder questions was my health. And honestly, initially, my health didn't even make me start to question God's goodness. It was looking at it forced me to look outside myself. And I remember telling myself, okay, maybe there is a lesson here. Maybe there is something good that God's gonna bring out of this somehow, or whatever. But I started looking at the world around me and just going, no. There are so many people going through things that are so much worse than what I've experienced. There is no good God. I just realized how ridiculous it was to think otherwise. How foolish it was to think there was an all-powerful God who gives a damn. Anybody give a fuck? We're on our own. What I like to tell people now is there's no hope. Might as well just accept it. But when I started talking about my health and the fact that that's really what made me start questioning things and start thinking about some of these harder questions, so many of them would just say, if you pray about it, everything will be fixed. And at this point, like, you gotta realize, like, I have been praying. I have prayed until I was in tears. I have begged and begged and begged. And your God is not here. So, how much longer do I have to embarrass myself? How much longer? But the best part about it was people who told me that if I was positive enough, or I prayed enough, or some other stupid Christian mentality thing, I'd get better. Oh, that's all people gotta do? Really? Let's go to the hospital. Let's tell the people with cancer. You're just thinking too negatively, man. That's all you gotta do is think positive. Don't you know about the power of positive thinking? And some of them, now a lot of Christians will disagree with what I'm saying right now, so I get that not every Christian thinks this way. But for those that do, like, they really hold on to it. Like, I swear to God, you can get run over by a fucking car in front of them, and they will just be like, you know what, let's just stay here and pray about it and think positive. There's no need to call an ambulance. You'll be fine. Like, gather us, hold hands, close your eyes. We gotta pray like we mean it. Like, I swear those people are freaking out there. But to actually tell somebody that you know that they will get better if they just think positive, like, ooh. At this point, what grinds my gears is the fact that it's so illogical and it just makes no sense at all. But at the time, you gotta realize I was so broken and so depressed and so just, I mean, I was a mess. So for people to actually see that people were knowingly putting false hope in front of me just to take that hope away, that hurt. That fucking hurt. You know, and that's what kills me about all these people who want to have a serious conversation about the fact that you're questioning your faith or you're going through some struggle. No, you fucking don't. You don't want to have a real fucking conversation. You want to have a debate with me. You want to convince me of your side. Which is fine. If you want to debate theology, then tell me, hey, I'd love to debate theology with you today. Okay, cool, I'll be over in a minute. Like, can we just be real about this shit? Can we just be real about this shit? For the love of fucking God. Be real. Be authentic. Be a fucking human being instead of one of these stupid religious robots. Please. If you want to debate a religious belief, then say that. But do not say that you want to have this real heart-to-heart conversation when all it is predatory bullshit designed to make me feel like garbage and kick me down at the lowest point in my life. Fuck you. I just could not believe that people were doing that to me. And the greatest part about it was that they would swear on their lives that they were doing it out of love. And it was so hurtful and so mean and just it just makes my skin crawl to even think about it. even after all this time, because I started getting sick when I was like 16. So it, like, I'm 32, it's been a while, and it still just makes my blood boil just to think about how these people treated me in the name of God, thinking they were doing something just amazing. Absolutely incredible. The way religion turns brains into mush and hearts into stone. And then the conversation that was the final straw was with a family member. So I'd already been having all these conversations with church members. Some of them were conversations I initiated, some of them people coming to me, that kind of thing. They were pretty much all terrible. I will say there were some good people in the mix. Obviously I'm expressing some very negative emotions right now, but yes, some of them I think were just genuinely good people. There were some people who actually heard what I had to say and treated me like a person instead of someone that they were obligated to reconvert, but not many. I'm gonna be honest, not many. So anyway, this family member confronted me, and it was very aggressive, which, first of all, if you want to have an actual heart-to-heart about something that's going on, like, pro tip, lose the authority figure bullshit, okay? And like, let's come down to earth and have a conversation, okay? Again, if you don't want to have a real conversation, then don't say that you do. That's simple. Again, just say you want to debate religion. Just say you want to debate theology. That's fine. But don't say you want a real conversation if you're just going to be an inauthentic piece of shit. So I start trying to just be super polite about, well, you know, I kind of have like questions about like this thing over here, and like I have some concerns, you know, about like this part of the Bible, and like I'm just a little confused about like this stuff. And I was trying to be like super held back and super I don't know, just I was trying to be appeasing. It's like I didn't really want to have the conversation, for one thing, but it's like I'm also being put into this box where it's like I know I can't really say what I think, I know I can't really say what I want to, so why are we having this stupid conversation anyways? You see what I mean? You know? I mean, at this point, I really have had enough. I've had enough of people feeding me a bunch of false hope. I've had enough of people feeding me promises that are not real. I've had enough of people telling me they want to have a real conversation just to jump my shit and be an absolute fucking predator to me. I've absolutely had it at this point. You know, so we have like this half-hour conversation. I started out trying to kind of be appeasing and kind of holding back a little bit. And, you know, but he handled this from the get-go in a very aggressive manner. So it's like, at some point, yes, I start pushing back. And I started talking about the things that were making me doubt things. And he knew very much about my health situation. So, but there was just judgment. There was no understanding. There was no concern. There was no anything. There was just getting me to spit it out so they could jump me about it. That's it. That's all it fucking was. Because that's what religion does to people. That's just what it does to people. So then I'm basically just getting yelled at for not believing in things that don't make sense. Come up with a belief system that makes sense, bud. Okay. How about that? You want to try that? No? Then get out of my fucking face. Stop. Come up with something that makes sense, and then ask me to believe in it. Then we'll see where we get. We might get somewhere then. But if you're going to continue this bullshit right here, we're not going to get anywhere but pissed off at each other. And so I kept kind of, at that point, pushing back. And at some point, he said something about being faithful to God, which kind of set me, like, I kept myself under control, but like inside, that really set me off. And I said something along the lines of, why should I love a God who tortures me? And he said, that's the devil making you say that. And at that point, I just shut down completely. that if that's not the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life, you don't want to have a real conversation with me. Like I said, if you wanted to debate theology, you could have just said that. But don't tell me you want to have an actual conversation if you don't want to have an actual conversation. Okay. So I don't think I said another word. I think I just kind of sat there and listened to the lecture and just wished I was somewhere else. You know, at the end of the day, my pain didn't mean a damn thing to anybody. People just saw it as an excuse. And I realized there's really not much application of a thought process going on around this place. You know? People aren't doing a whole lot of thinking. If the Bible is true, it should be able to handle, like, a little bit of analyzing. If God's real, that should be able to handle a little bit of analyzing. If God's real and loves us, that should be able to handle a little bit of analyzing. But you analyze it like that much, and everything collapses. Everything collapses. The devil made me say that? Bro. Oh, sweetie. Oh, sweetie. You can't think of anything to say, can you? So you're just gonna blame it on the devil. Anyways, I am glad to be free. I am so glad I am not part of that crap anymore. I am so glad that I am not a part of religion. It's a bunch of ridiculousness. If there is a God, he doesn't give a damn. And I think we need to come to terms with that. He ain't here. And I think if you are part of a faith and you see that someone is having doubts, I don't think it's wrong to confront them per se. I think that it's fine to have a conversation. But if it's going to be predatory and you're just trying to beat them up for thinking or for feeling anything, I just think you're kind of trashy. That's just really trashy behavior. And it kind of destroys people, to be honest. It really does. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, half this video, or even just a quarter of this video, please hit the like button and subscribe.